Hey there.
Hi.
How's it?
Went a little bit later, so I called about 9:30. No pickup.
Sorry about that. We're a little busy, just trying to make ends meet, I guess. But
Okay.
so yeah.
You get here with your mom. One thing I'm gonna ask. No profanity. With your mom listening here. If there is any, I'll just have to hang up, and then you can call back if you want.
Trader Juice.
Okay.
Is that understood?
Well, if they
There's
were
a
going to have
difference
those kind of
between cussing at someone
hey,
and
shh,
using cuss
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Hey, so if we're going to have that type of conversation, can we define exactly what are profane words?
Please leave the F word out, the S word. I think that's the only ones I hear from you.
Oh, okay. So, basically, if I were to ask for you to leave certain words out, that you would have to do the same thing.
Well, you can hang up on me anytime you want.
Well,
Do we really?
I mean-
my God, man.
come on. Like, are you insinuating that I would be using these words towards you, or that somehow you feel like you could be exempt from hearing them?
It doesn't matter. Let's just say that I'll be hanging up if there's any F word or S word. That's my choice. I'm not asking your input on that decision.
Okay, that doesn't really sound like a choice. Sounds like you just said that would be a no free will decision. So sure, of course, you're just laying it out on the table. Go right ahead. I understand.
Yep. Okay. You can call back, but if it keeps continuing, then I'll just we'll just talk the next day. So, yep.
Wow, I guess kidnapping.
Cool beans. I guess I can't be. I guess I can't.
Exercise.
Exercise my freedom of speech. So that's cool.
Wow.
It'll be chilled today, as it's called. But anyways, is this conversation taking place over the phone or in your house?
Both. If it were in our house, we'd ask you to leave.
Okay, so whatever. That's a philosophical argument for another day. Whatever. You win, Dad. Your virgin ears win today. Can you make sure you don't say certain words like quest? Then, if you say that kind of word, I'll hang up on you.
You're fine. I'll probably still say it.
And like I said, I'll hang up because I find that to be an offensive word, and if you don't get that, then that's the whole point. These things go both ways, Dad.
Sure, you can hang up anytime you want on me.
Do we really have a choice?
Who's in the position here, Dad, of hanging up on who?
I'm not sure this is.
He's just.
Anyways.
Okay, whatever.
You're in the upper hand, Dad. You hey man, if Mom's there, go ahead and lay it on me. Give me everything you got, man. Just be as honest as you possibly can. Please cover every single concept now. We got to go over this from me and those three people to David and bipolar misdiagnosing to jobs not working out to 3 unrelated rule to camping tickets to felonies. Hey, just throw it on the table. Diagnose me. What do you think is going on here? Do you think that we have problems that we do or do not understand what they are, that are our fault or not our fault? Do you feel as though you have liability issues? Personally, I think that one I would just try and reiterate most, if I ever were to ask this type of question is so do you accept that those 3 people didn't pay me money? And do you accept that I just won a whole bunch of cases where an officer told me I was in their park and I wasn't? And just real basic stuff. So I don't know where to start, but that's why I go back to the basics is because I think we have a hard time understanding what facts are these days. You, me, and other people. So anyways, that's why I figured just lay it on me, whatever you want to say, anything you can think of. Please, we've been trying to get, I guess, some clear answers from you guys for a very long time. We obviously our own questions get in the way, and we're really sorry about that. So just obviously you feel as though there's something that I think I feel as though you would want to get across to us. So sit us down and tell me what you want me to hear.
Not tonight. It's late. We're tired. We can do it soon.
Hey, Dad. You said earlier that we'd talk tonight.
Yeah, on the $500.
15 minutes.
That's the same conversation.
10.
Hey, like I said, I'm actually not trying to say anything at all. I'm trying to give you a chance to say whatever you want. So here's your chance.
I'm not going to tonight. I'm tired. It's late.
Hey, Dad. Someone's knocking at your door and they're asking for help. And what are you going to do? Just, let them in the morning? They might not be there.
I don't think this is urgent. I think it's...
That's what I'm trying to say right there! This is urgent! I'm done with people who don't believe me! Now, it's urgent. If it's not urgent enough for you guys, then don't ever call back and don't ever expect us to ever talk to you ever again, because this is the type of situation. This is the type of situation that you cannot put off anymore, Dad. You're in denial. We can have this conversation right now. And the only reason why we're getting mad, and the only reason why you're telling us to put it off, is because you don't want to have this conversation. So anyway.
Denial!
So again. Okay, like I said, Dad. It's urgent!
10 minutes!
We need you to talk now!
Stop. That's intellectually dishonest, Dad. 10 minutes. This is not a 2-hour conversation. I think you can indulge 10 minutes.
I don't think I can to discuss these items.
Okay, so...
Wow!
Like I said, okay, we'll give you 30 minutes. Can you just talk for 30 minutes? Can you tell us something for 30 minutes?
No, I'm not on these topics. They're important, but not...
Okay, so what are these topics, and why are we waiting on them? Why can't we talk about them right now?
The $500 is because of these. You can never separate this, Dad.
It's the same conversation, Dad. We need 500. Actually, I'm going to throw this out there because you need to unlearn a lot of things, man. You are very statistically frauded, and you take things out of context, and you force us to have to go over a lot of things. So I wasn't specifically putting a price tag of $500. I wasn't putting $1,000. I was literally putting on however much it takes for me to get this paperwork out, and then whatever money I don't spend, I just return to you, and then whatever money I need, I get back, and I pay you back with it. So it's like it doesn't matter the amount. It seems to me like there's some other things going on, like some little lessons that you guys aren't teaching us or telling us that I'm wanting to sit down. Why don't you freaking tell me?
They don't want the $500 paid back because it's lawsuit funds.
I'm not.
Okay, Dad.
If you want, I'm willing to ask you some questions.
Okay.
In order to see whether and how we're going to help you.
Okay.
You want me to ask the questions?
Yeah, that's what we were saying. If it's a two-way and there's questions, we'll give you answers. But, I was just trying to get an idea I thought it was a one-way. You're usually just wanting to lay it on us. So, but hey, ask questions. We'll gladly answer. We may not answer because, you can't expect people just to give over information willy-nilly. But we'll work with you. So, sure, absolutely.
Okay. So all of this is toward the end of whether and how much we help you. Okay? So that's why I'm asking questions. Okay.
Go right ahead.
So I'm concerned that your current, this is going to be a big question, a long question. Okay? Let me tell you why I'm going to ask it first. I'm concerned current lifestyle is not sustainable. It's not bringing in money, and it's getting you in trouble with the law that's taken a lot of your time to get out of. Okay? Money now, in another month, there will be another request, and so forth. So I'm wondering what alternatives you have for changing your lifestyle. Specifically, can you and David get any sort of job in order to have a steady income? there? That's the question.
I can't get a job because Center Partners fired me off of frauded pill and workman's comp paperwork. I am still putting that together. That gives me the right to work in this country, because Center Partners clearly didn't want me, to the point that they would wrongfully terminate me to avoid the liability of not having a doctor's note.
That was that's David's answer.
That's why I'm on the streets, because panning is non-physical labor that gives me extra time that I can put this together.
What's your answer for not working?
Okay, Dad. You want my answer?
It's not working.
We knew this conversation might have this turn before we had this phone call, my brother and I, and we had an idea for why we might need to have this conversation, and I'm very glad but very sad that this conversation has turned to this particular point. But it genuinely concerns me when you use words like lifestyle and choices and not working. And this is part of my problem with everybody else in my life, and it's called statistics fraud and defamation, where people think that I have the capacity to otherwise lead a normal life right now or in the past. I have never been able to lead a normal life from about the age of 17. So when I get comments about lifestyle, I have never made one single choice that has never been in direct relation to a previous decision that didn't go well because of a previous decision that was always based off of other people's wrongs. So I got to a certain point over the last year or two where I lost my job over the illness of the stress of being sued illegally, and I got assaulted, so I got sued illegally there too. And while I was on the streets putting together that paperwork so I wouldn't have to pay the government $141,000 with my brother over a frivolous lawsuit, which was where we were picked up, 2 people breaking a 5 unrelated rule case. So we're not guilty, and we have to take time doing that. And then once we take time doing that, we don't have our other rights intact. We tried to do the shelters. We ended up hiding and then ended up getting tickets for our sleep. Our lifestyle choice is nothing but a black hole of right pitting that we got put into, where we're not going to go anywhere but out the correct way. And that means taking out everybody that pushed us into the positions that they pushed us into. Cops not ticketing us legally, moving us to the next location, people holding us at gunpoint for holding signs and having all of those dropped.
Hey, by the way, Dad.
So
I have to say this real quick.
So that's...
Stop.
I don't like those words.
Dad.
It's defamation.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Lifestyle choice. You don't get that these tickets are illegal. You are completely allowed to hold a sign and never get a ticket or go to court ever. That's why these drop. That's why Colorado Springs was sued, because it's freedom of speech. As low as a whatever lifestyle choice, it's legal. And it did not get us in trouble with the law. Second one, when it comes to the sleeping tickets, Oregon was already sued because they gave tickets to people when the homeless shelters were full or inadequate. They were struck down as unconstitutional because if you have nowhere to go, it's not a crime to sleep in your own hometown, regardless of camping tickets and park curfew tickets, which they were specifically describing as unconstitutional. So there is no lifestyle choices. We're just poor category. Poor people.
Hey, actually, I have a better way to... I'm really glad Dave and you are trying to get...
I have another question. question.
Well, I actually need to follow up with this to clarify real quick, if that's okay. This absolutely needs to be clarified. These are types of tickets that are let-goable on individual levels. These aren't the types of torts where someone stabs you. But obviously they get to a large point where when we defend ourselves and we have to fight against their defamation and lying, it takes a while to get through court. And we've only won or only lost one or two. Won most of them. But what I'm trying to get at is that there is not a choice to just let these tickets go and just go get a job, when these tickets are actually the result of previous illegal things going on that I'm still dealing with, that I was dealing with before these tickets even came around. Telling me to get a job now is the same thing, even worse, than telling me to get a job when I had a job. I was already working enough, but I wasn't putting enough toward my paperwork. The last decade has been the battle between half the world telling me to get a job and the other half telling me to get my paperwork in order. And I always won. The job always won out. So the whole point is, I know you're thinking in the back of your mind that there's a quest here, that maybe there's things that can be let goable, so forth. Number one, the tickets themselves, while we did win them, and we have our own 42 USC counter suits to get the money back, we had actual time put forth that we had to do ourselves or pay a lawyer to do to defend ourselves in all of them. And so they came around, and there was a bunch of them, and we spent a bunch of time defending ourselves.
We didn't sue these people. They sued us and lost.
And, and I understand, yes, if you're in the pathway, get out or something like that. But I'm sorry.
That's not a legal admissible
That's not
phrase.
legally admissible in court. And the Constitution and the federal and the actual real people in this country that I've been following on my side are very adamant about rights. And they don't care. In fact, actually, the reason why I'm stuck on this side of a quest is because nobody else is exercising any rights, and now they're being under-exercised, and now it's being even harder to exercise normal rights like just sleep and stuff. And so that's why I'm forced to have to actually fight for everybody else, because nobody else did in the first place.
I'm ask the next question.
But anyways, it's not a quest when I've already been through too much as it is going into it. It's all the same. In fact, actually getting the tickets actually helped me understand better how the frivolous lawsuit of the original 3 people went down. It's actually been extremely helpful, and I've actually done, and we're almost out, actually. In fact, we can't even go to court anymore. Cops can't get their tickets to get that far anymore. We're so good now with motions ahead of time and stuff. So it's not like these rights are hurting us every single time. It's actually almost very little effort now to go out there, exercise our rights. If somebody wants to move us along, we take the ticket, we write a motion to dismiss, we get it dropped. It's getting very regular.
Because it's legal.
Yeah,
we were never supposed to get these tickets.
And so actually we're really not getting as many of them now, but we were getting a lot of them back in the day, or in the last 2 years. And so it's not a quest. And it's not a lifestyle choice. God, I hate that word. And I'm sorry. Moving on. Thank you for listening. Next question. Fire away.
Okay. Holding your panting is just as bad this month and the next month and so forth. And you're in the same situation. Will you be asking us for money every 2 weeks or every month like you are today?
I'm going to ask you and anybody else at this point for what I need. Anytime, anywhere to fix my problems. And I'm also going to be really honest and say that I don't need $500. I probably need as much as it takes to just fix it. And
it could
these
be
are
1,000,
things,
it could be 9,000.
And the number one issue I have with you asking that type of question is I have been trying to get help for these really easy 3 people a decade ago. And people gave me the finger then. And once they give me the finger, they require me to ask another person for help, put a little bit more paperwork so that the next person can understand it. And guess what, Dad? I've been putting together paperwork for a decade now, and I'm almost done. But everybody doesn't believe me. So every time nobody believes me, they send me back down to the bottom. And so, yes, absolutely I'm going to be asking for this money because it's a finite thing that I know I have and I know I can get it done. And it's only 20 or 30 cases for these other ones. Those are small, but it's only one or two really big cases. And then once that's done, literally, panning is actually enough to just get on your feet with. Dave and I do it enough for our basics. We can't do it for our time. So yes, whatever it takes, I'm going to ask. Yeah, and I'm not going to go get a job right now because mathematically, compoundingly, legally, I have so many rights infringed, and I have so many opportunities to express them, and I have only so much statute of limitations that you don't understand. Fighting my three unrelated, or the three people back in the day, having to get the jobs to keep my places going and so forth, it was actually a relief to lose my job. I couldn't have been more thrilled because I tried not to lose it, lost it anyways, but now I had an excuse to actually go back to the paperwork, this time full time. So yeah, it has nothing to do with the current cases as far as like getting a job goes and so forth. I know I'm very well within my rights with my case 12 years ago. It's disgusting that I have to go through it. It's really easy. But yeah, I'm going to keep asking for money. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to be really realistic about it.
It's not necessarily asking for money. It's asking for something to plug the hole.
So we can spend time on the paperwork.
That's why we wanted places to stay, not money.
Kind of like if you were to pay a lawyer to go do all of the same work for us. But we've tried lawyers, and we could have that conversation another day if you believe us or not. You can take our story to lawyers too if you want. Be my guest. We've tried lawyers. We continue to try them. We need more paperwork. They keep basically telling us that they don't have enough or to make any good judgment calls. And so, yeah, it's not like we're giving up on lawyers. It's that we're trying to get what everyone's telling us is just our freaking affidavit together. An affidavit, a timeline, and a charge list.
There's a big difference between failed paperwork, like we fully completed it and failed, versus being stopped in the process from filing it in the first place. And that's where everyone keeps thinking that we've already failed when people haven't even looked at it yet. And all we were asking was to file a complaint to see if there was a claim there.
Yeah. And real quick, I got to say this because this is very, very important. Most of these cases have already been dropped or acquitted and so forth. And so filing it is already a win almost technically for us. The only thing that the judge has to do is go over and make sure that a reasonable person would use a map that night and stuff like that. It's very obvious stuff. But these are not complicated legal issues. They actually only look that way because of a capitalistic world where there aren't any resources outside of saving money, like sleeping in a shelter or using food banks, which is not the same as the time it takes for people to be fighting stupid DAs and cops' bad tickets. Whether it be me or public defender, it's going to take time. It's going to take money. And I don't think there's going to be enough trips in the food bank for my public defender to save on his lawyer fees. I don't think that he's going to be going to the food bank himself to save. I think people are just going to go to the grocery store, and they're probably just going to live somewhat normal lives, and then they're just going to build the other side. But anyways, that's a long answer for your question. I'm really sorry.
Okay, next question. David, with as much time as passed on your workers' comp claim, how much of a chance is there that you would be successful in that at this point?
It's not a matter if it's successful or not. It's the fact that I'm injured, and it's just always going to be there until it's fixed. So to answer your question honestly, I would go to another job, and I would deteriorate. They would go through the same thing as Center Partners. I would sue them for workman's comp, and I would start the ticker all over again because just letting it go, the whole point is I was trying to file it to simply just get the resources to heal. And since that honestly never happened, to be completely honest, I've had pain every single day since that injury. And that's why I asked to move in that night, January in 2012, because I was telling you that my job was being stupid and wasn't working with me and fixing the environment. And I guess there's no free will in just because you got to pay rent or just get a bunch of homeless tickets. Like back then, it was all the same thing in between every rent. Got to pay rent or get homeless tickets, and because the camping ordinance is on the books, and so that's why I asked you to move back home so I wouldn't have to go through basically a permanent injury. And by the way, he didn't give me the paperwork, and I went to Vern Miller, and Vern Miller told me it wasn't work related. I later went and filed through Center Partners for my wrists. That was temporarily fixed, but that was also due to them neglecting a desk to no doctor's note. So, the whole point is I could have hit the statute of limitations perfectly fine if I didn't have to go to Ruby Tuesdays, like you guys thought that I guess I wasn't injured then, and then forced me into Center Partners. It takes a lot of time out of your day to travel to work, work your whole shift, and go home. You're tired, and honestly, that's depression to make me work 80 hours a week and not have any time. And so I was trying to work with my schedule at Center Partners, and it's honestly all jobs are 40 hours or nothing. They don't work with people temporary or for that matter. And basically, I guess the whole point is I was trying to keep it in the right bucket, because if I go to an insurance company, go to another doctor, why should I be paying for that when 5 guys should? So it's all the same stuff. And technically it wasn't a workman's comp claim. A workman's comp attorney told me it was actually a criminal case because it wasn't exclusively only workman's comp. Mitzi actually committed a crime on there by denying me paperwork. That's a misdemeanor in there. And everyone gave me the runaround. So it ended up, that's why that first couple of attorneys technically I went to back in the day couldn't take it, because it was just, it was not just a workman's comp. It was, to be honest, a judicial misconduct, witness tampering, psychiatric fraud, false rape accusation, workman's comp fraud lawsuit. It's not just workman's comp. So
yeah,
I don't know how to answer that
really
question.
Well, if I may chime in real quick, I apologize. He didn't really just get a workman's comp. It's just a he wasn't supposed to be in that work environment in the first place, going through bipolar misdiagnosis,
I wasn't supposed to be on the pills
so forth
either,
and so on, and so it's a whole
wasn't
different type of lawsuit. But ultimately, the question of how the likely is the success of what we think of a workman's comp claim. The likelihood of success of any claim is at this point unquantifiable, but I'm sure gonna file it.
That's all you got to do.
That's all you got to do. And when we put our affidavit out and we file it with every single institution, we're going to let the experts work through it all, technically. We just need to get the affidavit out.
And by the way, it's not just workman's comp. What about the $80,000 or so that I looked up on psychiatric care that Lawrence was absolutely supposed to give me money to deal with my side effects, such as serotonin syndrome, sleeping problems, and the overweightness that Zyprexa was actually sued over, by the way. I've been following it. Psychiatry is not the best, and the whole point is he didn't need to take offense to it. It was neutral. So why I didn't get any money out of it beats me. Honestly, I think it's fraud. I don't think he should have treated me. Technically, he didn't do a good faith examination. That's what a UN human rights lawyer on psychiatric fraud told me. That she told me that Lawrence committed fraud. And so I'm halfway there to completing it, but I wouldn't have gone through this many roadblocks if Center Partners didn't screw me on keyboards and schedules, if I wasn't dealing with injuries instead of just sitting down typing. Also, remember back then, I distinctly remember asking to sue Silvermine for clearly attacking me and incurring medical bills, and you told me I couldn't pursue it, so that's kind of where it all started. I remember you even saying I couldn't even go to a library and while living at your house, and I don't think you understand federal law that if you give someone rental situation, you're not guilty for any lawsuits that they're in, and all I needed to do was pursue it, and that was the first one, and that would have been it. But then I got on pills, screwed me there. A year and a half of pill side effects, didn't go anywhere. Then actually I started picking myself back up at Five Guys, started going to more attorneys after I got more information and more time to do my paperwork. But then it went downhill, and it was very dangerous. Like, it really incurred ibuprofen incident. I went to the emergency room, the whole thing. I shouldn't have been there. And so the whole point is you say if it's going to be good or not. I think this falls under a different category of judicial misconduct, and there's no statute of limitations for that. So I don't know how else to answer it, but it's going to look ugly, and I'm going to be injured. And if I don't ever get a workman's comp claim from any business, if I go to the next one and they just cut me too soon, I have to foot it myself. So I guess thanks, Dad. That's why I really, genuinely asked to move back home. And I remember you told me a statement that you got to be on your own. You got to take care of yourself. Well, yeah, I was. I was trying to explain to you that other people were bad torting. Who cares? I was in food service. You could say lifestyle choices all you want, but I was trying to prevent, honestly, a lifetime full of injury because I had nowhere to go. And I figured the only place I could go for free, where it wouldn't cost you technically a dime because your house just keeps going. And so I would just be on a couch in your house while I deal with Five Guys, but I guess I got to be on my own. And this was what happens when I'm on my own, is I have to then file all my own claims, sue my own old people, and get my compensation, because if not, I'm incomplete and I'll never be at where I was before.
Or able to hold a full-time job.
I'm a little confused on the timeline. I know you lived in the apartment by 7-Eleven there on Broadway. Was that the January that you're talking about?
No, this was the January where I lived near the mall. It was while I was working at Five Guys. That's Center Partners time. It was winter, January-ish. I asked for a place to stay. You said, let me talk it over with Mom, like you always do. And you ultimately said, like you always do, you got to be on your own. You're an adult. We can't be enabling free rent or blah, blah, blah. And basically, you didn't let me move back home. And I went downhill until I took that ibuprofen, went to the emergency room, and filed workman's comp, and then went to Vernon. It was all over at that point. I had it didn't fix. They did whatever the doctors could do wasn't enough. And when I got released, when I went back to Five Guys, that was in January. I filed workman's comp about 2 months later in March. I quit in June, so 2 months. And when my workman's comp ran out, supposedly rehabilitated, the work environment was too much, and I actually went downhill again, and I quit at that point because I was too injured to ever work at that job ever again for the level of rehabilitation that they gave me.
And when you didn't come live with us, where were you living then?
Stover Street.
He was living with me, and I was having trouble paying both of our rent. And so I eventually...
it's right next to the mall. Rihanna used to live over there.
Yeah, I eventually had to replace him with another roommate because he couldn't pay.
And
this was over at 343 in Stover Street, just east of the mall. Dave and I had an apartment.
Where did you live then? Where did you go to live then?
What do you mean?
When William asked you to leave, where did you go from there?
Oh, your place.
Oh, okay.
And then you, after about a month and a half, You said that it wasn't working out, or that not necessarily not working out, that I need to go back out in the world, and I told you that I was injured and I was still trying to deal with it. And then that's where you guys told me that you were going to kick me out. And then I had to get a job, so I went to Ruby Tuesdays, and that was like 3 times the amount of work at Five Guys, so I couldn't have done that. And from there, I quit, and then a month later, I got the job at Center Partners with William.
Oh, and then you moved into the place on Broadway.
Yes.
Okay, I got the timeline then. Okay, let me move on to the next question. Tell me about the paperwork. What do you do when you say you're putting together paperwork?
All it is in any business, McDonald's, if you're a customer, if you're working at HP where you're at, if you're in a hospital or even the jail, you have a complaint process that you can file your grievances or complaints when they're not meeting your human rights needs, such as adequate medical care in jail, or if someone committed a hate crime to you while you're a customer at McDonald's. There's rules and regulations. And basically, all it is just an account of the event. That's all it is a timeline, witnesses, my medical documentation, and that, and whatever subject is, I file in it. So that's what I was trying to do, is file a complaint against Five Guys. And by the way, it's not just money. A lot of the times they fix the work environment and you just get your job back. If it's bad, then they end up just paying you out or whatever.
It's a policy complaint process because people aren't doing their jobs, and we just report it. And so the actual paperwork itself that has accumulated at this point are almost all the same cases on the cop side. They are a timeline of events, charge list, a sworn affidavit.
The sworn affidavit is saying, I swear Five Guys did not fix its environment, that I am due of workman's comp. It's basically what any person would do in this country for their rights.
And all of the paperwork is, there's not even any guesswork as to what we file, where, and when. Or not when, but whenever we can. But it's institutions, they have complaint packets that they have you fill out certain questions. They ask in a certain way. So the Department of Education, DORA.
It takes several hours to type it out, copy it, sign it. And that's the whole thing, is you really don't have a choice not to do this. It's like, if you don't, you're literally throwing your rights away for the rest of your life, and it will get far worse. It just will never get better after it.
Well, there's a couple different types of filings. So there's a 42 USC, which is the cop had no lawful justification. That's for tickets that we've gotten dropped and they wasted our time on. It's very, very simple. I've read one where a lady had, this was a rare Fort Collins one, but she had a dog walking leash ticket, and they falsely accused her of not showing an ID when she was asked for it, and basically got the false imprisonment. It was like $500 with like $1,000 or something in pain and suffering. It was a really tiny case. It was really one off too. So, but yeah, the cops' sides of the paperwork is always the same: a charge list, affidavit, a timeline, and then from there, the other paperwork that is the other types of people, which is work environments and judicial misconduct. That's with the institutions to do research. That's with the Attorney General's office. I have to write them. Basically, there's avenues for judicial misconduct to be written down. But ultimately, everybody's asking for the same thing. Every institution's asking for the same thing. They just want a timeline, a affidavit, and a charge list.
They can only accept it in one form.
Yeah, and they basically, if it doesn't fit elements, they can't do anything with it. And so, but the elements are really easy. They're really easy. There's not even. I mean, we actually have. I actually know there's an end to it. It's actually a very finite amount of work. We just had a couple cases to begin with. Never got to that paperwork. Got a couple more cases on top of that. Now we have even more paperwork, and now we just have a bunch of cases, and we just have a bunch of paperwork. That's it. It's like, honestly, if I had a 3-month endeavor a year ago to just sit down and be a lawyer for 8 hours a day like a lawyer does and not have to go paying for my needs, this all would have been over. It literally would have been done for.
About a year and a half ago, honestly.
And it could still be over in about 2 months, 3 months of just sitting down, writing stuff down. And we don't even need money for that. We already decided, or not decided, but we know we can get enough for the bare minimums, and a little bit of work each day, a little bit. And we don't mind doing that on our own scale. It was just really, really crappy the last year or two having to work on everybody else's scales. And, I'm going to try and get continuances and stuff to have more time to put my stuff together. But, there's too many, there's a bunch of squeaky wheels and they all got the grease. And so that was the only crunch. I mean, we're not that destitute. We just, well, actually, I'm going to say, in one particular situation before all this, I really was destitute and I really did not want to be in jail. And it was the whole bonding out issue. And basically, I had requested a public defender, never got them. I probably could have used them in the unlawful conduct trial, might not have lost it. And I might have been a little bit more prepared for my obstruction trial. But no, I was stuck in jail and that was great. So at least I'm not in jail. But yeah, there are such situations where, when the time crunches happen, people can be witness tampered and run out of time. And so that's all I want to, run by you guys was just, I just got some crunch moments here.
Instead of completely letting all criminals go.
So, well, I mean, it's not that. It's like we can get everything else. The countersuits, the quests, I don't care. I don't involve you guys with. I'm not asking for that kind of help. Technically, I was only asking for just a little help in defending myself against bad people.
Tell me how much time you've spent on a daily basis on average. So let's say just over the last 6 months on these paperwork and legal issues. You have a rough number of amount of time per day on average.
Well, part of it's talking about it. It's not
just
paperwork, pretty much every day.
Every day is going to have at least 1 to 3 hours of just talking about things, of all the case law that we had to learn. By the way, I should mention, the paperwork's really easy. Getting to the paperwork, not so easy. That's what the last year was. That's what discovering racketeering is and fraud and so forth and so on. And so the majority of what Dave and I have been doing is actually not even paperwork. It's actually discussing what we're going to do so that we don't frivolously sue other people. Because we're bringing suits technically, but they're countersuits, so they're responses to suits. And so, yes, I basically had to become a lawyer. So the last 6 months has been anywhere from 1 to 4 hours a day, reading and talking, and going over news and collecting evidence, and also
clipping audio,
reporting
signing affidavits, typing it out,
reporting stuff to Internal Affairs, working with them, phone calls. And
driving down to offices and picking up paperwork.
Yeah, and then obviously the couple of defenses here and there for the couple of charges. And then, it just kind of adds up. But no, it's not just the raw paperwork. That's what I'm trying to get to, is just the sitting down. I haven't been able to even get to that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing me. I'll remember 1 to 4 hours here. So on the average, somewhere in between the two. Okay, next question. A lot of your legal issues are centered around that jumping the fence.
Whoa. Is that a statement or is that a question?
Well, okay.
Because I don't think it's actually related to that. That's actually a really easy case.
That's actually the easiest case.
That's the easiest. That's actually literally the easiest, because we have all the evidence for it beforehand. We already sent the takedown notice. We're just waiting for a motion to dismiss. We're waiting for time to sit down and put the motion to dismiss together. That's nothing.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm sorry.
So if you had another opportunity you saw to make the same statement or same position, would you do it again?
Oh, you mean jumping the fence?
Yeah, if you had another situation like that, would you do it again?
I already know what you're after, Dad. And when I see an opportunity that's literally on par with solving all problems in the least amount of time possible, Of course I'm going to pick up that job. Yeah, absolutely. Right now,
what you
I
don't
haven't...
understand
Hold on.
is it helped prove all of our other cases.
Okay, that's one point that Dave's going to make real quick, is that it helps point out all the inconsistencies in our other cases. It helps us help diagnose these people. They need help figuring out what they're doing wrong. So it's a great example. I'm going to answer your question in a different way, and I'm going to say this. I have a couple of stings that I'd like to do coming up here because I still see room to help these people out. Now, going and just talking to their city managers or whatever it's not the same thing as making them all put their money where their mouth is. Now, these 2 or 3 stings I've thought of, I'm putting on the back burner because I need to get out paperwork for attempting to influence. But when all that other hoopla or risk assessment, or whatever you want to call it, is a little bit over or at least less, when I see an opportunity, I'm going to take it because so far, as I've thought of with the trespassing, it's exactly what I wanted to do. It's absolutely. And boy, I know that must just scare you guys when I say that. But Dad, I jumped that fence and I literally have every single piece of evidence that I have ever wanted to really, 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 really put these people where they need to be.
You can't trespass in a fence where they don't have a permit.
Yeah, they didn't even use a map that night. Basically, I already, the whole goal was to take out as many cops as I needed to prove points that you can't pick up people illegally without a shred of evidence, hoping that it'll all fill in later. That's called homeless discrimination. And so, yeah, I haven't found too many other opportunities, but I have. There's one, here or there. Also, too, naturally, I'm out there panhandling in spots I know that other people have been picked up in, like David. And so naturally, I am out there technically stinging right now, but not really stinging, because I know that if a cop comes up to me, I'm just going to exercise on my rights, and I'm just going to have the ticket dropped, because that seems to be the theme here. Every single panhandling ticket that I've ever gotten has been dropped or lost in court by them. So I know it's a long answer, but this fence is not some sort of element or event that I feel like you guys need to be extrapolating extra some sort of math out of because you're trying to figure out why one would do that. I did that because I wasn't having as much luck in any of my other cases. The cops were also totally ignoring that we won our cases, and so they were basically not collapsing their egos. And so, so far, the fence is giving me enough juice to work with that I don't really need any big other events like that.
Hey,
but if one comes, oh yeah, man. If I find bigger rights to exercise to help more people out, absolutely, I'm gonna do that.
To answer your question, I'm pretty sure Mormons would file a lawsuit or complain if their churches or hate groups were spreading hate speech about Mormons. That's illegal on this in this country. You don't realize that when we talk to the city, that guy put up that fence illegally as a hate crime, segregation. We've had so much trauma on the streets. The old ladies that are supposedly covered by the Coloradoan are also getting moved along. So, yeah, when I saw a bunch of innocent, hardworking people, as crazy as that sounds, just wanting to better their lives, and cops are just moving them around for their sleep.
And super duper rich people are putting up fences as a pure hate crime when they know better.
So yeah, he put up a hate crime, and in the thing it said he did it for a safety precaution, saying all homeless people are violent, and that's why he had to fence it off. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll do it anytime we see something that illegal, and I'm pretty sure you would do the same thing if you saw something.
If somebody put up a fence around your church, would you go in it regardless? Would you wait for them to take it down?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or would you just go to your church?
You would just go into your church because it's your church.
And then would you take a ticket and fight it if needs be? Or would you try and ask them to take the fence down before you go into the church?
Because that's...
It's a half rhetorical, so you don't have to answer that.
Okay, let me ask the next question then. Okay, actually this is a clarification. I'm hearing from you that if you have a similar situation, do a thing, And doing that, you knew that you would be charged with a felony and that you may spend lots of time going to court and preparing paperwork and interviewing witnesses and everything else, that you would still go ahead and do that.
I know the only place to battle intellectual dishonesty is on the streets and then in the courts. And if I see it, I'm going to fight it because nobody else is.
Hey, Dad, by the way, we literally, it sounds really stupid, but we didn't think these cops were that stupid. We had the actual email. All they had to do was just charge Eric Holsapple. There's not even a question if he can get a felony or not. He can't in this scenario. These cops didn't do their job. So,
yeah, that's kind of it's almost like a loaded question because
Yeah.
it doesn't really have any, like, to me, that's like the same question that Bob Persifield asked me that one time. Like, hey, man, you know that you could risk getting a felony, but, doing all this, man, why would you do it? And I'm literally looking at him like, dude, I'm not retarded. I know my rights. And I said and what you don't understand, Dad, is all I have to do is just exercise my rights to their faces. And anytime they don't agree with me, I just go to the next guy up. And so I'm actually not having any issues at all, zero, with this fence trespassing case, because the motion to dismiss that I thought of before I jumped it is the exact same thing that I still need to
all
put
we
out
have
after
to
it.
do
I just need to put it out.
All we have to do is subpoena his boss and be like, do you know us? Yes, you came into our office. 2, what did you talk about? They talked about how I wanted a fence went up and to investigate it. So we already talked to their boss. I mean, it's not impossible for police officers to not do their jobs. There's doctors who not do their jobs. There's technically presidents. All positions in this country, people cannot do their jobs.
Hey, actually, Dad, I found the perfect way to answer that question. I've been wanting to figure out how to answer your question for a long time now. Okay. If I can get another charge and get more cops to commit more crimes against me and get dozens and get a DA's office to get in on it and try and charge me and get an internal affairs to be fooled into thinking that it's a charge and basically go all the way to trial, I'm going to absolutely do that anytime I possibly can find that, because that is the quickest, easiest way to catch fraud on the streets right now. Nobody's doing it. Nobody knows how to do it. I figured out how to do it. It's really, really, really easy. I'm not even concerned anymore because I've already had it happen so many times to other tickets that they just get dropped that I'm not even blinking an eye anymore. I've diagnosed these cops correctly, and I actually know what they're going to do before they do it. And that's why I give them certain information certain information other times. And, it's funny. You say, jumping the fence, like this event here. The whole point, Dad?
One more question, then we got to go.
Hold on. The whole point is that if I were to give that information to the cops beforehand, that's what you're saying is, why didn't I just try and give the cops the information beforehand? That's the whole point. It's their job to know it. And if they want to try and hide behind all these felonies and everyone else like you acting scared, that's the whole point, is that they are going off of nothing, hoopla, reputation, hot air, and I've already seen it, and I've already called them out on it, and I've already won every single time except for when a judge let a map in when they shouldn't have. And now I'm going against judges, so obviously I'm not going to win.
By the way, the fence wasn't the main issue. It was actually all the other tickets where we couldn't find places to sleep in. Mainly their policies. There's still not places to sleep. The fence just happened to be some other crime that happened in the town.
Yeah, it's kind of an easy battleground just to prove a point that
Also,
they don't know their jobs, and that's why none of their other tickets should be issued, because they don't know their jobs.
The main contention was the panhandling and the sleeping tickets, because that's what moved us around and wasted weeks of our time, even up to now a year, battling all this stupid stuff, because that's where you reside / get your resources. So when they attacked that, they pretty much obliterated us. The fence thing, I completely agree with Will. We went to the city. They couldn't give us an answer why it's not illegal, because Let's face it, it's not illegal. It's your street. Technically, they didn't steal it from us. They stole it from every person on the planet. Any person, tourist visiting Fort Collins, any person who wants to move here, that's designated right away. And they took it, man.
So let me just end with a rhetorical question, Dad. Why didn't you jump the fence? They were stealing your land.
Yeah, exactly.
It's rhetorical. You don't have to answer it. Go on.
Okay, you ready for the next question?
Sure,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. I heard from you that you're not doing any stings now because you are busy with other things.
Let me rephrase that. I haven't found a sting big enough to outweigh the other stings. If I do, I'm going to do it. I already thought about how awesome it would be to sit in jail over this bigger sting to make the other ones look worse. I just haven't come across any of that yet, no.
Hey, by the way, there's a difference. This fence was separate from us, provoked by somebody else. That was the only intentional one. The other ones where you may think it's a sting is on the streets. Technically, I would have had 20 more tickets if I didn't do what you're kind of getting at right now, which is just to move along. But there's certain spots where I've had recordings of other cops allowing me to be there. So yeah, when a cop comes around and tells me to leave and I have way more evidence to say otherwise, then that's where we get sued.
It looks like a natural sting. I mean, it looks like a sting, but it's not. We're just fed up and we're exercising our rights.
For instance,
and we don't have enough time in the day to deal with them anymore on that move along basis.
Federal Heights, perfect example. Cops try to move me along. I argued them. They agreed with me, and they actually didn't touch me again. This cop decided to show up. So I guess it's a battle of like psychology and intellectual honesty. I honestly don't think I should move if their own other officers gave me permission. And technically, it was really funny. The other day, Will, again, went into the office and acted like an anti-abortionist guy from a Christian thing. Got an answer in a second. No statute applies on that land. So basically, I'm not even worried about that. I'm only worried about it for time constraints because that's coming up in 2 weeks. But that's just one motion to dismiss, 5 audio clips, 2 maps, statute, and a couple other definitions. And that's about it. And that's what William did for the other 2 panhandling cases. And he won. So.
Let me get back to my question if I could.
Sure.
Okay. If we don't give you the money, does that mean you'll have less time to do stings? And you may not do the stings as they come along.
No amount of money or time of assessing against those risk value.
Do you have internet?
No, I don't need internet. It's local. It's just a phone. Okay. I don't calculate in.
You can't.
I don't calculate in. Oh man.
You can't because that was just Eric just putting it up one day. Like, we literally haven't seen anything
let's
for
put
a
this
year.
way. Like
so
I said,
why would we even go do something? There is nothing to even do.
Yeah. There's 2 types of stings here. We'll call this sting A and sting B. Sting A is when someone else commits a crime that is so obvious but no one does anything about it that I'm the only one that can take that call. And when I take that call, it might get ugly. And so that's when I went to the city and they took that call. But then the cops didn't take that call, so I got to make sure they take that call and so forth. And that's going to be what looks to be really ugly, but not really. It's just time. It's actually really elementary school stuff. I'm just like sitting down with them and telling them what the definition of right-of-way is in court, as I've done before. And so that's the type of sting that if somebody comes along and does a big enough crime that outweighs everything else, 100% I'm going to do it. But that's very hard to find, really.
Technically,
putting up a fence like that was a really rare thing in the first place.
Hey, Dad, technically, what William did with that fence is the same thing what we would do if we saw someone break into your house and start beating you up while he tries to burglarize it. We have a right to
we would go in and
intervene and report it. Citizens arrest him.
So that's that's sting A. Sting B is not even a sting, but I call it a sting because cops are retarded. And that would be when I get picked up illegally by holding signs and I get moved along, but I'm going to exercise my rights only for the sole purpose of getting them all back so I can go back to that spot.
Which technically we
that
did.
Actually has already happened, Dad.
We've gone back to our
spots. It looks like it's a wasting of my time and so forth, but they were good panning spots. They got us on our feet. They were getting us on our feet faster. And so, yes, I had to get moved along. I took the ticket, but taking the ticket allowed me to prove that they weren't supposed to be doing what they were doing in the first place, and I got to go back. And so that's kind of, in a way, that's maybe how Sting A works, is that technically the reason why I jumped that fence is so that the whole world could finally sort of learn what it's like for someone to commit a crime against them, like a big Eric Holsapple. And so no one's learning that lesson. And honestly, that's a very, 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 very scary thing that cops don't recognize that. The city manager's office themselves never really publicized it when they saw it. They didn't even take it down when they saw it. And so, I'm technically, doing that so that everybody can honestly, so that people can stop being ticketed there as if it's private property. Because I get in fights all the time with dispatch over it. They literally are just like hell-bent on believing that that is private property, and that is a crime that's not going to stop until pretty much I stop it. I'm literally the only person that knows that that's happening, and other people, like people that hang out there, are being illegally moved along.
Pliers.
Possibly to this day. And so, I'm going to do that to exercise their rights, in a way. Here, hold on. I got to help you. Hold on 1 second.
It's suction.
Just hold it.
I don't like it too. It's like when I cut my finger last time.
Keep in mind that this is a huge violation of my privacy, and, you pretty much are getting whatever you want, and I don't think you deserve this much answers willy-nilly when you haven't been asking these questions for decades. But anyways, go on, please. What's your final question?
No answer tonight. I may ask another question tomorrow night. But you've given us enough to help us make a decision. With the possibility I may have one of the questions tomorrow. So.
Well, no, so wait, you didn't have that last question, you said?
No, I asked my last question, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I don't really, I don't know how else to say it, but, maybe this is just some food for thought, but like, I think some of the contentions I have with these types of situations is that you, as well as everybody else in that type of pool of people, I'm going to call them yuppies, you feel as though you can always control situations and put flowers on them, and that everything gets to go through, your buckets because, you're the one that's giving the money and so forth, and you can't bite the hand that feeds you, so forth. But truthfully speaking, I understand the BITE model of the behavior modification of the type of lesson that one would want to push, which is where you obviously want to ask for help kindly and very appreciative because they're really helping you out and so forth.
No problem.
And that's and what I'm trying to say exactly is that's when there is no problems. And so I'm trying. I would like to dress up my problems in such a way.
We actually agree with you.
But,
if we had no problems and we're asking, it would make sense. What a waste.
But basically, let me put it this way: you have asked more questions about my life at such a late time in my life than anybody else, and it just seems just downright disingenuous when I'm on the streets to the point where I'm asking strangers for help because they don't ask me questions. I couldn't, because honestly, because I tried to get through to you guys earlier, and I tried to, do my best to be honest, and I should have asked for more than just that $200 back then. We should have had this all happen before, but that's the whole point, is that we don't, because we try and work with you guys, and we tried to work with you in the past, and so it wasn't really the $300 that Dave needed that day, or it wasn't really that rent that you needed to help me out with 5 years ago. It was literally, truthfully speaking, it was supposed to be a better public defender in the very beginning, and then now just whatever it takes, legal fees to reverse that and all of the catastrophe that caused. And so, I just, man. So I can't stand questions, because questions make me feel like there's still some normal situation here, especially when you say things like lifestyle choice. Like, we live in an absolute daily crisis.
And there's no choice in that.
And I would love to just choose to make my way out of it, but oh darn it, I'm actually going to say I entrenched myself because the world told me I had rights, and I still have them. And so far, every time I exercise them, they're working. And so, I can't unlearn what the world taught me there. And so, I wish I could just let go and just get a job and everything. But ultimately, the reason why I'm talking about this all is I feel like with all these questions is that it's going to come down to some sort of conditions of, there's this halfway, two-way street understanding.
There's no conditions with people come out of nowhere and ruin your life.
These are just torts, and we're just going to ask you, honestly, unconditionally, like we ask anybody else on the streets. We're not even going to discuss payment plans because, we just need freaking stopgaps. And so, put flowers on it, make it sound like it's all normal so you can maintain control over it, Dad. But I can 100% guarantee you there's no control over this situation. Whatever happens. I could go to jail, who knows. All I know is that I have, my problem is that the world has basically put me in a position where it's time or money, and since no one wanted to help me, since it was a big defamation, I pretty much had to do the time to money ratio myself. So that's why I'm on the streets doing time to money. I would get a job, but technically that actually takes more away from my time. So, and that's why I only pay for only the basics, is because it's just time that I don't want to spend working. I want to spend on my paperwork. And so, whatever. I really appreciate you being willing to talk to me, because technically that's more than some other people in my life. But it just sounds to me like all these questions they should have been asked a long time ago. And are they going to change anything? And really, does the answering of these questions help you out more than me? That's the sad truth. I feel like I don't have any problems because if I can sit down and have a conversation with my parents over it, then it must not be a crisis. So you got your answers, but man, I feel like they could have been asked decades ago. So it's like a Band-Aid on a broken leg. I really appreciate any help you guys have, but really,
we're just cleaning up the mess.
We're just cleaning up a bunch of messes, yours and others. We just need help, and I don't think we need to be explaining anything more. I guess I thought I had explained all this stuff to you guys before, but hey, I'm sorry. There's a lot of crap flying across the fields, and so sure, I don't blame you for asking, but hopefully you can see that it looks a little unusual. So, thanks. Have a good night. I guess we'll talk to you later. But you guys ask how we're doing, and we're not doing too well. I mean, we would be
as worse as
we could be better. It's not destitute, but I'd like to not sacrifice any rights if I don't have to. And that's what everyone else seems to be telling me is, you just got to start sacrificing these rights, that's a lifestyle choice and this and that. But actually, it's really simple. It's actually the same problem that everyone else has been duped into believing, is that they have to go work for their time and their bills and so forth, minimum, or for their survival needs. And truthfully speaking, real quick, let me just end on this. Like I said before, if we were just to be paying lawyers to do this the bad way, because if I just accepted that and just let them handle it the poor way, they would be billing the other side at a pretty substantial rate because of how they have to do their jobs. And I just highly doubt that they would start going to a food bank to cut back on their costs. They would probably just bill the other side. So, thanks, but no thanks. I think your math is pretty crappy. But hey, you wanted us to answer some questions, so we answered some questions.
What was the question?
But anyways, talk tomorrow, I guess. Thanks.